Business World, I'm Sander Vanocur, and here's what's on this week's agenda. Even as the Russians are coming, the Americans are going. Soviet economic reforms opening new opportunities for American companies. From New York, this week's Business World guest, PepsiCo Executive Committee Chairman Donald Kendall, one man with years of experience doing business with the Soviets. Also this week, Boeing selling behind the Iron Curtain, and the selling of Wall Street, the newest takeover targets of Japan Incorporated. Also a look at some videos you won't find on late-night TV.
From ABC News, this is Business World with Sander Vanocur, Stephen Ogg, Dan Kortz, and Gordon Williams. Now from New York, here's Sander Vanocur.
Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev arrives in the United States for this week's summit meeting at a time when unprecedented changes are taking place in the Soviet Union, a time when the Western world is looking closely at political reforms which have come to be called glasnost, and looking closely at economic reforms which challenge 70 years of Soviet-style socialism. But American business is looking at the change in the Soviet Union and wondering if the new policies will last or be as fleeting as a Moscow thaw in January. Starting in January, the traditional long Soviet lines for bread and meat might also be for the bank. Beginning then, Soviet citizens will be allowed to open up individual bank accounts. Factories which have been required to buy specified amounts of raw materials at specified prices in order to produce a specified number of products will be more and more autonomous. Now, in exchange for being more efficient, managers and workers can also get bonuses. It's all part of Mikhail Gorbachev's year-old economic reforms, or perestroika.
Progress is required because they are in a situation of crisis, economic crisis, in terms of economic performance and in terms of economic opportunity. That is, they need to be more modern and more efficient. Now, the way to be more modern and more efficient is to transform the domestic economy, to be sure. That's perestroika.
The Soviets are lagging in agricultural output, productivity, and technology.
They understand that they have not entered the technical revolution, moved from the industrial revolution to the technical revolution, the way the United States and the West has moved. And they want to do something about that.
There is one Soviet economic reform that has captured the attention of Western businesses: joint ventures. It would allow Western companies minority ownership in profit-oriented enterprises that operate in the Soviet Union.
They have a new law, and they're not even sure what that's going to mean. I've heard Russian officials say they're really not sure what the regulations are for joint ventures. I think there's always a temptation among American businessmen to see the Soviet market, just as they saw the Chinese market. But I think it's going to be a very limited part of the reform movement inside the Soviet Union.
Still, for Pepsi, which has been available there for close to 30 years, bottled in Soviet-owned plants for 15, the idea of joint ventures is enticing. Yet its chairman, who's had personal contact with the last 4 Soviet leaders, is cautious about getting Pepsi's Pizza Hut unit too heavily involved in the new joint ventures too quickly.
And you're going to have a lot of joint ventures before you finally come to a method of operation, and that's why we've said on the Pizza Hut, let's start with 2 of them and see how you do this, how you train the people to do it, and then if it's successful, then we'll open up more of them.
Companies like Combustion Engineering, Occidental Petroleum, and Archer Daniels Midland are also looking to expand or start joint ventures in the Soviet Union. Historically, it's been very difficult for Western companies to get through the Soviet red tape in order to operate there.
In the past, what you've had is a situation where a handful of people in a few super ministries have been the kingmakers, have made the deals, and they decided the fate of whether or not Company X or Company Y, Japanese company or American company, would get a deal.
As the political climate between the U.S. and USSR has changed, the realities of doing business have also changed. In response to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, Soviet access to American technology for the Trans-Siberian Pipeline was cut off. But in the present climate, more people in the U.S. are asking whether it's in our national interest to hold the Soviets back, technologically and economically.
Would our security interests be enhanced by the Soviet Union being a trading partner with a vibrant economy
and owing the United States a lot of money be a better way for us to coexist. And I believe that trading relations, that trade is a currency of peace, and that better trading relations is not only in Soviet interest, but it's definitely in the United States interest as well.
Increasingly, American businessmen and scholars believe that if perestroika is going to work, the Soviets need more than modern technology. They need modern management.
Now, the Soviets have set up in Moscow a training school. They're getting outside consultants come in from the West to help them with this management process, but it's going to take time. In the meantime, the people in the Soviet Union are expecting things to happen because they're asking them to work harder. They've taken a lot of their vodka away from them, and so they're expecting things to happen, and it's not going to happen, I don't think, as fast as they expected.
In just a minute, we'll ask this week's Business World guest, Mr. Kendall, what American businessmen might expect when they meet with Mr. Gorbachev this week, and whether the Soviet Union is the next profit center.
ABC News Business World, brought to you by Charles Schwab, America's largest discount broker.
Why do you invest with Charles Schwab, America's largest discount broker?
I've been investing with Schwab for over 4 years. I save on commissions, and I like the fast service.
Schwab is quick and courteous. I like the service and the savings.
In the last 3 years, I've saved enough on commissions through Schwab to buy my granddaughter 100 shares of stock.
At Schwab, there's never any sales pressure. I make the decision, Schwab makes the trade. I cut my commission costs in half, period.
At Schwab, they keep my investment costs down. I mean, way down.
I invite you to find out more about Schwab today. We drive down commission costs for the independent investor, and we do it with a level of service that you'll really appreciate.
For your free Schwab booklet, call toll-free 800-554-8000. That's 800-554-8000. Call Schwab now.
While many American firms may be pondering how to do business with the Soviets, this week's Business World guest has the distinction of having the first American company to produce a consumer product inside the Soviet Union. The groundwork for that began with a meeting with Nikita Khrushchev in 1959. But it took until 1974 for that plant to become reality. The product, Pepsi-Cola. The man, former PepsiCo chairman, now chairman of its executive committee, Donald Kendall. Mr. Kendall, you've had success, but dealing with the Soviets on business is not exactly a day at the beach, is it?
No, it's. I think the best way to describe doing business with the Soviets and the bureaucracy you have to work through is if you think about coming to the United States and having to go to the State Department, the Commerce Department, Food and Drug Administration, HEW, then going over to the White House to get approval, and then after you got all that, go over to whether it was Republican Party headquarters or Democratic headquarters to get final approval. If you can think that bureaucracy, then you know what it's like feeling.
But even if it gets better, and I temper that, isn't there a lot of resistance on the part of conservatives in this country, including businessmen, not just on the nuclear treaty, but also about doing any business with the Soviet Union?
Well, unfortunately, relations between the United States and the Soviet Union over a long period of time have been going up and down like a yo-yo, and it's a lot because there's total misunderstanding in this country about the Soviets, and I think a misunderstanding of what happened during the period of détente. And there are a lot of people who do not understand the Soviets, who haven't spent any time there, who have a stereotyped view of the Soviets, and I think, as the president said in his press interview the day before yesterday, that there's some people who think that there's no alternative war, and of course I think that's a ridiculous position.
You and Armand Hammer are probably the two American businessmen who've done the most business with the Soviet Union over many years. Isn't it true that you're having a little problem with some of the people in the White House this time around in connection with meeting with businessmen and state dinners?
No, I don't. The Soviets are controlling the meeting with the business people. Gorbachev's going to have a meeting with a group of business people. I don't know all the people are invited, but the White House hasn't interjected themselves into that. But I don't think there's any question. But there's a group of conservatives in the Republican Party who don't particularly want Gorbachev to be here or the treaty to be signed. I think that's quite evident, but fortunately that group's in a small minority.
What effect did that group, and because you're a well-known Republican over many, many years in good standing, what effect has that group had on your activity?
Well, that group doesn't have any effect on our activity. We've been selling PepsiCo in the Soviet Union for years, and all even during the Carter years, when you had the grain embargo, we continued to operate in the Soviet Union.
Mr. Kendall, isn't there a risk for the Soviet Union? You let market economics into that country from the West. The decisions that go with that, doesn't that endanger their political structure?
Sandy, I'm not sure that's true. What they're trying to do is to decentralize, put the decision-making process out in the regions. They're getting rid of the Foreign Trade Ministry, which has had a monopoly up to now on all imports and exports, where you can deal directly with the end user. I think where the trouble is going to develop in the Soviet Union is in the ability to deliver what Gorbachev is talking about, because a plant manager in the Soviet Union has never had any authority before and is not a decision maker. Now all of a sudden he's going to have to make decisions on where he's going to get his supplies, what he's going to produce, what he's going to sell it for, and they're not used to making those decisions. And they're now setting up management training institutes in Moscow to train these people to make decisions. And I think that's where the trouble is going to come.
There are a lot of business people who watch this broadcast. Briefly, what bit of advice could you give them if they want to do business with the Soviet Union?
Well, I think first of all you have to go over there and you have to recognize whether or not you have a product that the Soviets want. If you're in the consumer business, the food business, I think there are many opportunities. In the manufacturing area there are opportunities, but you have to decide whether there's an opportunity, and if there is, then I suggest they go there, because there's no question what the changes are going to continue to occur in the Soviet Union, which is going to generate more opportunities.
Thanks, Mr. Kendall. Thanks for being with us on Business World. And when we come back, Japanese firms go from buying stocks to buying stockbrokers.
According to a recent survey, 53% of employers say labor productivity is best on Tuesday. The worst day is Friday.
My grandma's the best grandma in the whole world.
Morning, John.
How's everything?
I wanted to get her something she'd really like.
Today's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
But who knows what to get for a grandma?
Introducing the American Express gift check. It lets the people you love choose a present they love.
So I sent her this new gift check from American Express.
There you are, John.
Would you like that wrap?
No, take it just like this.
She'll probably buy herself a cookbook or something.
It's from my grandson.
They're going to California for the weekend.
It's a frequent flyer thing. 40,000 miles and they both fly free.
I've got 40,000 miles. We're going to the mall.
Some airlines make you fly nearly 40,000 miles for one free trip. On Northwest, you get two.
You probably can't name the first name in copiers, but for meeting the needs of every size business relies on the most popular copiers in America. From personal to high-performance copiers, the choice is Canon.
Did you know the last time you starved yourself to lose fat, you might have lost muscle? Why? You didn't eat enough protein. Protein helps you keep the muscle while you lose fat. And that's what's special about Kellogg's Special K. It has the highest level of dietary protein of any cereal. So the under 200-calorie Special K breakfast may help you get the fat off and keep the muscle on. Special K. Keep the muscle, lose the fat.
Clap on. You can go Hollywood as long as you go home afterwards. And you got nice hot Eddie Murphy.
Let you turn things on or off from anywhere in the room. Just plug in the clapper and a television, lamp, stereo, almost anything you want to clap on and off.
Clap on, clap off, clap on, clap off. The clapper.
The clapper is available at Eckerd Drug, Walgreens, and participating Ace and True Value hardware.
More aftershocks rolled down Wall Street this week. First came the news that Shearson Lehman was buying financially troubled E.F. Hutton, which will make the new entity the largest retail brokerage in the U.S., but will also mean the layoff of thousands of employees. Then came word Kidder Peabody would lay off 1,000 employees. and there's more. Business editor Stephen Ogg reports the bastion of Western capitalism may soon carry the label owned by Japan.
In the automobile industry, the Japanese fight for dominance is an old story. Start out small, find the right market, make huge investments, turn out quality products. It was much the same in steel and electronics. Now there's a growing Japanese presence on Wall Street. Major Japanese firms like Daiwa, Nomura, Yamaichi, and Nikko all have set up American branches. But more recently, Japanese banks and insurance companies have made major investments in American firms. Last year, Industrial Bank of Japan bought outright Aubrey G. Lanston and Company, a primary dealer in U.S. government securities. Sumitomo Bank bought 12.5% of Goldman Sachs. Early this year, Nippon Life bought 13% of Shearson Lehman Brothers from American Express. And now Payne Weber is selling Yasuda Mutual Life an 18% voting interest that may convert into 25% of Payne Weber common stock. All this gives Japanese firms the ability to use Wall Street as a training ground.
The risk in that, in some people's minds, is that ultimately they take what they have learned and compete with us head-to-head and maybe beat us out at some point.
There are other reasons for the Japanese investment here. Japanese banks and insurance companies are precluded under Japanese law from direct operation of brokerage firms. So buying in the United States helps them do an end run around those restrictions. And most recently, restrictions on foreign investment were lifted. Also, thanks to the falling dollar and the October stock market crash, the prices of American brokerage firm stocks are more attractive now than they had been. Solomon, for example, is selling for half what it sold for in August. So is Merrill Lynch. And Payne Weber even less than half. And the Japanese have plenty of cash to invest. Another concern is what happens when the Japanese learn the way the markets work. Like the Eurobond market. 2 years ago, Japanese firms were barely a factor. By last year, they almost controlled the business.
They've driven a lot of competition out because they have been willing to do business at no spreads, at losses for periods of time to build market share. And it makes it very tough for firms that don't take the extreme long-term time horizons the Japanese do to compete against that.
The financial industry in this country has always had some foreign ownership, and with the growing internationalization in the marketplace, that's bound to continue or even expand. But with the Japanese playing by rules that permit them into New York and London, but restrict foreign access to Tokyo, there's a chance the financial business could be steel and automobiles all over again. Sandy?
Thanks, Steve. And next week, we'll have a special series of reports from Japan. Wall Street's worst news of the week may have been from the stock market itself, where the Dow dropped below its October 19th lows before recovering some ground. Our panel of stock market experts from around the country had predicted a down week, and they were certainly right. At Friday's closing bell, the Dow was down almost 144 points for the week. The consensus among our panel is for another down week ahead. Panelist Robert Farrell, a technical analyst for Merrill Lynch, has a technical explanation for the market's behavior.
I would call the current position of the market as a testing process. Now, that means that the market is coming down to a prior low, but not with the same intensity or force of selling. It means lower volume, fewer new lows, and in general, a market that's setting up for a recovery rather than a re-acceleration.
And troubled stockbrokers couldn't even get a break being entertained. Here in New York, Carol Churchill's latest play, Serious Money, opened, a biting satire of the London stock market. And from the big screen comes Wall Street the Movie, a drama about a young and hungry stockbroker, played by Charlie Sheen, enticed into the high-rolling world of insider trading by an Ivan Boesky-like character, played by Michael Douglas.
Greed is good. Greed works.
Trade your
And for good measure, advice from blue-collar worker Martin Sheen, playing father to his own son.
I know what this guy's all about. Greed.
There is no nobility in poverty anymore, Dad.
And while we won't give the story away, we might just note the good guys don't wear yellow ties. When we return, more news of financial services, and a new idea in East-West trade takes off.
This is where we make the new 3M surgical clipper by Remington. Hospitals are now using this advanced product, replacing blades, to shave patients for surgery safely and comfortably. You can also benefit from Remington's advanced technology. This charger stand keeps the Remington microscreen rechargeable continually charged. It never needs a cord, and it shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And the Lady Remington rechargeable also shaves without a cord. Now, lowest price ever on Remington microscreen rechargeable.
14 Bob Cousy.
If you had all the experience of yesterday, with all the skill and innovation of today, you couldn't lose. Blue Cross and Blue Shield carry the caring card.
If you've ever thought of starting a business, or if you already have, the Wall Street Journal could open some new doors for you. And more important, help keep them open.
Call 800-228-1600 for this special introductory offer. 13 weeks for just $29.75 with a money-back guarantee. 13 weeks, $29.75. Phone 800-228-1600 now for the Wall Street Journal.
Memo to Phil in DP. You seem to think IBM's 386 PCs are an automatic buy. I don't. Not when we have a choice. I suggest you look at AT&T's 6386.
Introducing the AT&T 6386 workgroup system.
The issue here isn't just computers and software, but it's keeping our options open, now and down the road.
The summit in America. It could start a new era in U.S.-Soviet relations. What concessions will be made? Watch the Jennings-Koppel report tonight.
It's not just the Japanese who are looking to buy up stock firms. Gordon Williams has more in this week's Shop Talk.
Sandy, my Business World sources say that Sears Roebuck is bargain hunting among Wall Street brokerage houses, looking to extend its financial reach just as it's losing its lead in retailing.
Rival Kmart already out-earns Sears in selling merchandise, but Sears already earns $1 billion a year from its financial ventures, including Allstate's multi-line insurance business, the Caldwell Banker real estate operation, and Dean Witter, the big Wall Street firm. Sears' newest venture is the 2-year-old Discover card. It's lost a fortune so far, but Sears says it will turn profitable in 1988. Sears just launched Discover Credit Corp to borrow money to finance the Discover card and other consumer finance ventures. My sources say that Sears would like to buy another brokerage firm with a high-quality retail network that would help Sears reach still more consumer finance customers. Why would Sears invest in a brokerage house the way Wall Street looks today? My sources say that Sears is looking beyond today's stock market, that Sears takes a 5-year view of everything. That's Shop Talk for this week. I'm Gordon Williams.
While Sears may have a 5-year plan, it's a concept more common in the Eastern Bloc. But Glasnost may be allowing an unusual opportunity for Western competition to take flight. ABC News correspondent David Ensor reports.
A Boeing 767 taking off from Warsaw Airport, full of Polish military brass, airline officials, journalists, and anxious Boeing company executives. After all, it's not every day Boeing gets a chance to break the virtual Russian monopoly on sales of aircraft to its Warsaw Pact allies. Time for an all-American aggressive sales pitch.
Well, actually, the airplane will make a lot of hard cash for Poland, and I think they really understand that quite well.
I want to show you how easy it is to extend the landing gear by the backup system and how easy it is to put the flaps down.
It took the tragic deaths of all 186 on board a Polish airliner bound for New York in May to convince airline officials that they need new planes. Since then, all but 2 of the Soviet Ilyushin 62s, normally used to ferry Poles and Polish Americans across the Atlantic, have been grounded. The Soviets told Warsaw they won't be ready with safer, more fuel-efficient planes until 1992 at the earliest. End of subject? Apparently not under Gorbachev.
I guess Poland or Czechoslovakia or any other country doesn't need Soviet approval to decide which planes to use. It's just competition, should be.
So it is now a competition Western style in Eastern Europe between Boeing and the European Airbus company. The prize, possible sales not only in this country, but in East Germany, Hungary, and Romania. David Ensor, ABC News at Warsaw Airport.
Coming up next, a Business World look at what might be the video answer to the pet rock.
Fixing this water damage will cost $1,200. Could I have prevented it?
You could with Thompson's Water Seal.
This water damage is going to run $750. What would have stopped it?
Prevent water damage with Thompson's Water Seal. Simply brush Thompson's on wood, brick, or concrete, and it penetrates to form a barrier water can't get past, even when driven by 98-mile-per-hour winds.
This time, I'm going to protect my new deck with Thompson's Water Seal. A great defense against repair expense.
You can see the dream of success in the eyes of people all across America. At Citicorp, we understand the dream. That's why, as Citicorp and Citibank, we've become America's largest financial services organization, already helping 1 in every 5 American families, with more home mortgages, more student loans, more MasterCard and Visa cards than any other company. We'd like you to get to know us better. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Michael Pike, Chuck, please.
Jeffrey Houdray has never heard of Unisys.
All the way from France.
It's from my grandfather.
Have a seat.
But Unisys systems process half of the checks in the U.S. each day. 30 of the world's 50 largest banks rely on Unisys for everything from international bank transfer to quick customer service. Jeffrey just knows that a new 10-speed bike is almost his. Unisys and banking, the power of 2.
The video business passed 2 big milestones this past week. For the first time, more than 50% of American homes have cable TV, and more than 50% of us have video cassette machines. To cash in, creative entrepreneurs are producing a flood of new programming to play on those machines. For example, how would you like a video baby?
Video baby, the full, rich experience of having your own baby without the mess and inconvenience of the real thing.
For health buffs, there's a tape for your rowing machine. You get the look of the real thing without tipping over. For those who like to stay ashore, there's a bicycle tour for stationary bikes. And to cool down, a restful view of video waves with crashing surf in hi-fi. To get even more restful, go beneath the waves and turn your TV into an aquarium. 60 minutes of fish going nowhere. Appropriate to the season, there's a video fireplace with crackling logs or with Yuletide music. And for those who like company but not kids, there's Video Cat. Or Video Dog, man's best friend, without shedding or pooper scooper.
You'll want to name your video baby right away. You'll know immediately if you've chosen a name she likes. Call your video baby by name now.
That's it for this week. Whatever business you're in, we hope the week ahead is a prosperous one. I'm Sander Vanocur. On behalf of everyone here at Business World, thanks for being with us.
Business World is a presentation of ABC News.